Here we go. Yeah. Yo. We back. I got everything all set up. Now I'm on this ruck. Good morning. Let's see if we got a like. Stray Godzilla, salute to you. Freedom ain't free. Nope. It never is, never will be, y'all. Freedom ain't free. Freedom ain't utopia. Freedom ain't a fantasy. Freedom is reality, y'all. Freedom is reality. Freedom is achievable, right? Is it going to happen for everyone on Earth all at the same time? Absolutely not. But it takes work. It takes challenge. It takes fighting. Stray Godzilla says, I want to talk about your book, Michael Jai White. What? What about Michael Jai White? I'll give y'all a minute to get in here so we can have this discussion about what Donald Trump is trying to do to Venezuela and why. Also going to talk about, right? We're going to talk about, because, you know, Donald Trump told Israel to stop bombing Palestine, right? To stop bombing Gaza. So I'm going to try to tie this to that. I'm going to try to connect the dots, y'all. Because the dots be connecting, y'all just don't realize it. So sometimes people need help understanding certain things, right? It's all about strategy and tactics, right? Michael Jai White could play Wakan? No. No, he too old. You know what I'm saying? Wakan, just so you guys know, Wakan is the main character of the book I wrote that you guys can get on Amazon. The Seeds of Dark Matter Disease. Wakan is like 6'4", 6'5", bro. And he doesn't quite look like Michael Jai White, but, you know. I mean, he could play him. You know, it just wouldn't match exactly what's in the book or even close to it. Realize it even. Salute to you, bro. Salute to my brother, Realize and Evens. So, we know about what's going on in the Caribbean, right? Near Venezuela. We know about the warships that Donald Trump has sent to the Caribbean to intimidate Maduro and to destroy a bunch of tiny boats. I mean, this is laughable when you think about it. They have attacked multiple boats that they said had drugs on it and have provided zero proof that there were drugs on these boats. And then my question is, even if there were drugs on these boats, why are we destroying boats simply because they have drugs on them? Why are we killing people that we feel have drugs on their boats? Am I defending drug traffickers? Yes. Sure, if you want to look at it like that. Now, number one, there's no proof that these boats contained drugs or drug traffickers. Let that out of the way. So what I'm defending first is human right. Humans have a right to due process, right? That's what we say. That's what's in the Constitution. Wow. Now, give me a Romeo, Charlie, if y'all can hear me. Let me know you can read me loud and clear, y'all. Can you read me? Can you read me? He does not seem to be believing in Trump. No, it doesn't seem like it, does it? Now, you guys, a couple of you guys said a couple things, right? Trump Bunny says we're at war. They just haven't declared it. Well, yes, that is the truth. But what is this war? Right? What is the purpose? Morning. What is the purpose of this war against the drug cartels? Because let's make no mistake. These ships or these boats they're blowing up, they say they were coming to the United States. But how do we know that? We don't know for a fact that these boats were on their way to the U.S. We just have to take the word of the government. Gets the government that sells you a line of BS and commits atrocities all over the world. In the last 100 years, our government is directly responsible for over 100 million deaths. The same government that lied to us about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. The same government that lied to us about 9/11. The same government that lied to us about, building 7 in the World Trade Center. The same government that lies to us any and every chance they get. We are just supposed to believe that these ships, they blew out of the water, completely destroying evidence, killing people. We're just supposed to take the word for it that they were coming into the U.S. with drugs. Y'all don't see a problem with that? Y'all don't see a problem with that? Valerian Stukatana. Yeah. Finally, as if drug trafficking is a death sentence with no trial. Bro, I'm so glad you're saying this. Yes. Because let's be real about this, y'all. Is this a weighted vest? Well, it's a vest with weight to it, but the weight's back here. So in my rucksack, I have about 65 pounds of weights. I have a 45-pound plate. I have two 10-pound plates. And then, I probably have about 80 pounds on me total right now that I'm rucking with. Now, I don't recommend, if y'all want to ruck, start with something light. Start with 10 pounds, start with 20 pounds, and work your way up. And get a good brace. Because, y'all, I have a bad back with multiple bulging discs. I have disc narrowing, you know what I'm saying? And a good brace, will help keep you upright. It'll help you from compressing your spine. So, and look, if you ruck properly with your shoulders back, standing straight up, it also helps with your posture. Anyway, so I recommend rucking to anyone that does not like to run long distance, because I hate running long distance. Gibby Gibbs says, how can you call it a war if it's not declared? Well, the same way they had a war with Vietnam, the same way they had a war with North Korea, same way they had a war with Iraq. Well, I think the war with Iraq was actually congressional. But the bottom line is, this war against the drug cartels that they're waging in the Caribbean against Venezuela, it's not about drugs, y'all. It's not about drugs. It really is not. Maduro understands this. Fentanyl is mined in America. Well, it can be, right? Salute to Brack Springwood Autumn. She dropped a $5 super chat on your boy, man. I appreciate you. Salute to you, Black Spring Autumn, dropping the $5 super chat. She says, nice to see you got the George Carlin protein bar in before the ruck. That's funny. That's funny. Because, you know, there's a big club and we ain't in it. Zach Zig says, respect, brother. We have to stay in shape. I pray you have a blessed day. I appreciate you. Do I do any stretches? Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I do stretches. Absolutely. I have to, because let me tell y'all something about what I discovered about my condition is if you don't stay moving, if you don't work your stabilizer muscles, if you don't work your core, because there was a time when I had to use a cane for 2 years. I had gotten into a car accident. It aggravated my low back. It aggravated my back injuries. And I got rear-ended. And, you know, I had to use a cane for 2 years. Too Many Rad says, back to avoiding the topic. What are you whining about, bro? Why are you whining? Why are you whining? I'm engaging with the people that come through to support me. I am engaging with my people. I consider y'all my people. Y'all came through to hear me out, to hear what I have to say. So yes, I'm not a news reporter just telling you guys things. No, I like to engage. I like to interact with people, whether they agree with me or not, whether they're trolls or not, whether they talk shit or praise me or big me up. I'm here to engage. Engagement is very important, y'all. It can't just be one guy talking. Even though you guys aren't technically talking, you guys are writing in the chat. You guys have something to say. I'm going to try to engage with y'all. Point blank and period. Anyway, yes. Gibby Gibbs says it's about oil. This is what Maduro understands, but it's not just about oil. Venezuela has the largest oil preserves possibly in the world. Untapped, right? And, you know, good morning. See, look at that. I love when people get it in. Look at that. Man, it's a beautiful thing. I can't do that. That running. Now, talk about fucking my back up. Doing that, I like to sprint short distances. I'm a great sprinter. Anyway, listen. Some of the largest oil reserves in the entire world, right? That's what Venezuela has. It also has a lot of gold, possibly the largest gold reserve in the world. So we're not talking about just oil now. We're talking about gold and oil. And we're talking about a strategic position, a strategic military position in South America, right? So let's understand this. Here's the thing we got going on, y'all. It's about natural resources. It always is. Yes, Valerian Steel Katana. Exactly. Black Spring Autumn says core and the big engines matter. Yes, it does. The big engines of the heart, y'all. Rucking is some of the best cardio you can ever do. It truly is. Not only is it great cardio, but it's also great. It's also great strength training. It's great for strength. You guys have no idea if you do it properly. Because, you know, when I was in the military and we rucked in the military and did our marches, a lot of us were like this, leaning over, trying to, you know, we had our weapons right here and we're like this. They never taught us how to properly hold our posture while we're rucking, which greatly reduces injury. Anyway, it's about tech in many countries, not this in this case. Well, no, because, listen, let me help y'all understand something. Venezuela is a sovereign nation that is not beholden to any other nation, any corporation, or anything like that. They demonized Venezuela. Thanks to Hugo Chavez never allowed the one of the greatest presidents on earth as far as tyrannical countries go, because Hugo Chavez was a beast. Man, they tried to take out Hugo Chavez so many times, he had to die of natural causes. Hugo Chavez was not fucking with them. He said, go fuck yourselves to all these nations, all these superpowers, all these corporations that wanted to exploit his land. He told them to fuck off. And they painted Hugo Chavez as some evil dictator, just like they do with every other president of every other sovereign nation that don't want nothing to do with him, that don't want nothing to do with the power structure, that don't want nothing to do with the World Economic Forum, that don't want nothing to do with none of that shit. They would not participate. They say fuck NATO. They say fuck the UN. And they have all these reserves. They got all these resources. Maduro comes in. They think they can get him to play ball. He told them to fuck off too. They thought they could install somebody. They thought they could replace Maduro. Didn't fucking happen. So now we got to go to plan Z. Because make no mistake, this is plan Z. It's not about drugs. Because if they really cared about the drugs, and if it was really a war against the drug cartels, well, we got cartels right there south of the border. We got the Mexican cartels that are engaged in drug trafficking, human trafficking, right? But if the government fucks with it, they fuck with it, right? Why aren't they blowing up Mexican cartel strongholds? Why aren't we hearing about that? Why haven't they deployed, jet fighters to fly over and patrol Mexico and Central America? Because they don't give a goddamn about the drugs coming in. Are we kidding? This country benefits greatly from the black market in terms of, any prohibited substance, any prohibited item. They benefit from it, right? They love when drug dealers deal drugs because they can allow these drug dealers to amass large amounts of wealth so that they can come through and make these huge busts. And then, guess what? They get to perform their civil asset forfeiture and get a lot of money for the government. When have we ever gotten a check from the government from a drug bust? I'll wait. Have we gotten any stipends? No, we have not. Real Hillbilly says the world is full of whiners, including yourself. Gerard Y says untapped. What kind of question is that? So every resource in the world has been tapped. So if I say untapped, you think there's something that I said incorrectly? We have untapped reserves right here in the United States that we have access to. So what are you talking about? Real Hillbilly says Venezuela has thick, sour oil. What? That is a weak-ass argument. Have you ever heard of a refinery? Have you ever heard of that? Do you think they take any oil out of the ground and put it directly in your vehicles? No, they have to refine it regardless. They take it to a refinery and they refine it. And they don't just use the oil for gas. They use it for any petroleum-based product they want to create. What are you talking about? Sweet, sour? Who gives a fuck? Are you drinking it? Do you consume sweet crude oil with your breakfast, motherfucker? What are you talking about? I need us to use sense. They have refineries for a reason. There are corporations, big oil companies that use oil from Venezuela so that you can put it in your own goddamn gas tank. So what are you talking about? At the end of the day, it gets refined and it goes into your gas tank. It goes into plastic products. What are we talking about here? Oh, they have sour oil. Anyway, does that disprove what I'm talking about? So that means that we don't want it because it's sour? I mean, come on now. Good morning. So what are we talking about? Crude is crude. Whether it's sweet, whether it's bitter, sour, savory, whether you can put it on a fucking biscuit, they have to refine it. And yeah, minerals, gold. They have a lot of things in Venezuela, a lot of resources, just like in Africa. They want to do Venezuela like they do in Africa right now. It won't be just the United States. But we'll have the control of it. But make no mistake, these other nations, they will come through and then they will pay to get their spot. Mike Cook says, STFU, seriously, you're defending terrorists, grow up, seriously. You're acting like a child who got caught doing something. All right, Mike Cook, you told me to shut the fuck up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you on your way. Let me tell y'all something. I believe in free speech. But when you try to tell me not to use my speech by telling me to STFU, I'm getting your ass out of here. You can go on about your business. Because when you tell someone to STFU, you're saying you don't want to hear what they have to say. Well, if you don't want to hear what I got to say, why are you here? So, because you guys can exercise free will, because you suffer from cognitive dissonance, right? Because cognitive dissonance means that you have multiple opposing beliefs at the same time. You hold multiple opposing beliefs that don't go together at the same time. Well, how is it that he had this guy that I just got out of here? How is it that he has cognitive dissonance? Well, because he believes I should shut the fuck up. But he also believes that he can come into my chat and listen to me talk and then write in the chat instead of going on about his business. So I'm going to help him out. Anybody else? Do I need to help anybody else get the fuck out of here? Let me know. Let me know, y'all. Legalize cocaine? Why not? Why not? Legalize cocaine. Because guess what? If cocaine was never illegal, hear me out. If cocaine had never been prohibited, we probably would not have crack. We would have cocaine, probably, most likely, pure as the driven snow. You know why? Well, crack came about because the drug dealers were under tremendous pressure to get their drugs off, but it was becoming costly to avoid criminal prosecution. It was becoming costly to avoid detection by the government, right? It was becoming costly to try to operate in the black market because, you know how the government works. So they had to find a way to stretch the cocaine out. They had to find a way to make it stretch. They had to make it more profitable, right? But they had to add impurities to the cocaine to make that cocaine stretch. So they experimented. They came up with different recipes to try to do this. Finally, they came up with crack. Yeah. Why? Because it was becoming more difficult to move the cocaine because the operating costs were so high because of the prohibition. So they had to add impurities to it, they had to add chemicals to it, make it a lot more dangerous. Yeah. This is a reality. Voting is rigged. Whether voting is rigged or not, voting does not benefit the people. It doesn't. They want you to think it benefits you, but really what it does, it benefits the system. Real Hillbilly says, I have oil wells, bro. Good for you. Okay. So let me ask you something, Real Hillbilly. If you have oil wells, tell me, when you extract the oil, do you put it directly into your vehicle? Because that's what we really need to talk about. Because there are oils all over the world that have different consistencies and different impurities based on the region, based on the geology of the area. Because I myself, I've taken geology courses in college, multiple. So I understand these things, right? Because fossil fuels, I understand, do not come from dinosaurs. It comes from plankton. The oil that you're talking about comes from plankton, fossilized plankton that have been under pressure under the ground for millions of years. It takes millions of years for the earth, to the natural occurrences of the earth, to create this oil, the fossil fuels, fossilized plankton. So you're talking to somebody that has a little bit of knowledge. So when you have that plankton, right, that becomes fossilized and it gets into the ground, or it gets in the ocean, where you have to drill for it, you'll have impurities in that, right, from the plankton itself, the fossil itself, and you also have components, or you'll have things from that region within that. So yes, the oil wells you have might have a different composition than the oil of Venezuela, but they take it to a fucking refinery and they refine it. They remove the impurities to the degree at which they can use it for its purpose. Yes. All you got to do is refine it, buddy. What are we talking about? What does that mean? West Texas Intermediate, yes. So yes, the crude oil in Texas is going to be different than that of the crude oil in Venezuela. Does that mean that you can't refine the Venezuelan oil? No, it does not. What are we talking about? I know a little something. First No Last says, people forget we overthrew Guatemala when they tried to nationalize their farms to give to the poor. Well, they do that. This is what they do. Someone says I'm not smart. Well, smart me up. Educate me. I have no problem if you guys believe I'm not smart, but please give me an education. I have no problem with that. He said sweet and sour. Right, Elijah. It doesn't matter if it's sweet or sour. They have different refining processes. Oil in Venezuela is being used right now by big oil corporations. So just because it doesn't have the same consistency and impurities as the oil over here doesn't mean it's not usable. What are we talking about? Anyway. Tim H, yes, So what if it's very expensive to refine? Who you think they care about that? So what? So what? The bottom line is the largest reserve in the world, right? Because something might be more expensive does not mean that they won't use it, because they'll just pass the cost down to us. But if they have access to Venezuela and can get that oil and build refineries right there, that would make it less expensive because you're refining it right there in that country. You're refining it there. Doesn't matter how expensive it is. These people have endless amounts of money. They have endless amounts of access, right? Those costs won't be, they'll pass it down to us through inflation, through taxation, right? It's very expensive to build a drone, right? A Predator drone is very expensive. Damn near $1 billion? But they build the drone and they use it. And they use it for their purpose and they don't worry about the cost. So you're dealing with people, when you talk about these big oil companies, they don't care about the cost because they know that the access is important. They will offset those costs with the gold and other minerals Venezuela has. They will offset those costs. They will have access to a whole bunch of gold, right? They will mine the fuck out of Venezuela and they will make up for those expensive refinery costs. Matthew Lee says, just for clarification, sweet oil versus sour oil. Hold on. Y'all didn't delete that, did you? Damn it. I was reading that. Well, here's the thing. Vi has lifted. It has everything to do with oil. What? It has to do with the oil, the gold, whatever resource they can access and tap into. Water? Yeah, water is very valuable and water is a necessity. But we have water right here in the United States. We just don't know how to access it. You know who does? The government. The government has access to damn near unlimited amounts of water. They build dams. They build these things in the waterways to control the flow of water. And they tell you that they create these droughts. They manufacture droughts. And they tell you, you got to conserve. No. You just don't know how to access the groundwater. Groundwater is plentiful all over the world. You know what I'm saying? Amish says you can't block people, you can only block accounts. I understand that, Amish. So guess what that means though? Hey, I wanted to read that comment about this guy I was talking about. Sweet versus Paul King says certain crude is harder to refine. So what? What? Do you think that they only want easy oil to refine? Oh, well, we just want the easy oil. Yeah. Oh, well, I know. Yeah, this country has all this oil, but it's not easy to refine. So we don't want it. Man, don't give, what? They are evolving refinery processes. Good day. You too. Freedom of speech does not include spreading lies. Yeah, it does. You just have to have discernment. If people are lying to you, you have to use discernment to determine the lie. Lying is free speech. Real Billy says, I'm listening. Listen, Royal Hillbilly, I'm not discounting what you're saying, but I don't understand how what you're saying disproves the purpose of this war being about gaining access to Venezuela's oil. I don't understand why it doesn't discount that assertion at all, right? It doesn't. Because it's not just about the oil. Venezuela has so many resources and whatnot. So they can offset the cost of refining said oil with whatever they find out there, whatever they're able to mine. Do you think it's easy to mine cobalt? Mining cobalt is very difficult. Very, extremely difficult, very painstaking. The people that have to mine it, I mean, all the raw material for the semiconductors they use in microchips are very difficult to refine, very difficult to mine for, but they do it anyway. They're just gonna get some worker, they're gonna get some guy out there, right? Some low-skilled labor to perform the work. They don't care about that. They're sitting up in their high ivory towers. They're playing golf. Do you think they care about how hard it is to refine the shit? Come on now, dog. It's called delegation of work. They don't have to do the work. Meanwhile, they have other streams of income, right? These big oil companies, they're already making trillions of dollars. It's a multi-trillion-dollar industry. Trust me, they can deal with the cost. Did someone drop another super chat? Did I miss a super chat, y'all? Dissonance is necessary? Yes, it is. Salute to you, DJ Rago. Salute to Adam Cooper, Scotty Wave. Salute to y'all. Am I in the military? I was. I am a military veteran. Yes. I'm no longer active. I would not be able to do what I'm doing right now. If I was still active, I would have had 30,000 court martials by now. Aaron Howard says, I don't know. I got the middle of this conversation. I'm just talking about what Maduro understands Donald Trump is trying to do in the Caribbean with his eight warships and his nuclear submarine. What? Why do you need all that? Do you know this is a Department of War? Donald Trump changed the name of the Department of Defense to the Department of War to go after tiny drug boats off the coast of Venezuela. When we got drug cartels right here in the south of the border, we got drug cartels operating in the United States right now. We got drug cartels operating in Canada. But he has to go to the Caribbean Sea to blow up tiny boats he believes is coming to America. Man, salute to Coach Hudson in the building. Salute to Magic Space Viking. Salute to you, bro. I appreciate you. Godspeed to you as well. Thank you guys for coming through. Man, the chat is moving so fast. I can't. Is Coach Hudson in here? Salute to Coach Hudson. Hey, y'all, if you guys have a channel, you're my moderator, go ahead and drop the link. Coach Hudson, Black Spring with Autumn, Stray Godzilla. Make sure y'all drop y'all links in the chat. I can't keep up with y'all. But I'm glad you guys are here. We have this discussion. You should quit and stop being a pawn for a murderous regime. I'm not. What are you talking about? I'm not in the military anymore. I am prior duty, just like Coach Hudson. Coach Hudson and myself are both veterans. We no longer serve in the military, so we have certain insight that is valuable to y'all. Tony Valet, salute to you. One time somebody came in my chat and they said, and this is very true, a lot of veterans are anti-government and anarchists at heart. Why? Because we've seen both sides of the curtain. We understand how shit operates to a degree others do not, right? Because we have been disillusioned. We have been made to be awoke. I got 20% battery on my shit. If my battery dies, all I gotta do is pull out my other phone and continue to live from there, but it won't have the same title. But you guys can still come back. Veterans are getting smarter. Absolutely, listen, find a veteran. Combat vet, not non-combat vet, doesn't matter, right? I believe Coach Hudson is a combat veteran. I'm not, right? We have different perspectives, but we have the same understanding. El Sheba Sekmet says, I just subscribed. Salute to you, El Sheba Sekmet. I love that name. I love that name. Very significant. Fuckum says, I know why wouldn't they be? They sign over their lives for a couple grand and then come home all fucked in the head. Well, some of them do. Some of them legitimately have post-traumatic stress disorder. Like, I would say I don't want to put this out there, but he already says it himself. Like my brother BFTB, or speak for myself. He's a combat veteran. But we both have a certain understanding of our government, how it operates. Will the military split Constitution versus Trump? Well, and this is very important, right? The most successful coups, right? The most successful coups of regimes are military coups, right? When it's just the civilian population trying to do something, it doesn't really work out because they don't have the firepower to intimidate the leaders, right? Unless you do what they call is radicalizing the civilian population and you supply them with weapons and whatnot, and they could do what they did to Muammar Gaddafi. Because Muammar Gaddafi was not killed by his own people. Well, not by his own military. He was killed by he was killed by rebel factions of his own population. But who incited these people? The United States government. So there are successful ways to perform coups without the military, but it's very hard. You have to have the backing, essentially, of another nation. Now, I'm not calling, make no mistake. Yes, PTSD is real. Make no mistake. I'm not calling for the overthrow of government. I'm not calling for a coup for the government. I'm just telling y'all, the most successful coups are military coups. But what they usually do is that they unseat one regime and replace it with another regime. And this, good morning, and this is where you get the revolutions, right? Good morning. With the American Revolution, they were military. It was military and civilian militias. The problem with revolutions is that it goes around in a circle. One revolution is 360 degrees, right? This is the problem we have. When we choose to stand up for ourselves, right? When we choose to fight back, when we choose to revolt and rebel, we usually do it by way of a revolution, right? Isn't it beautiful? I love it. I love the greenery of the Southeast, y'all. Alex says, stop being a simp. Who am I being a simp to? You know what? I'd rather be a simp than a woman hating, whatever you gonna be. You hate women, there's something wrong with you. I'd rather be a simp than a woman hating motherfucker. Since y'all want to throw extremes at me, extreme labels, I'm going to throw extreme labels back at y'all. So if simping means I love women, that means that, well, y'all hate women. And that's something that you have to come to terms with yourself. Anyway, who am I simping to? I'm not in Virginia, but, I'm pretty close. I'm on the same side of the country as Virginia. He doesn't know, he just wants to comment. I know. Thank you for your chat. Get a battery charger. Y'all, oh boy. Who's a woman hater? There are a lot of women haters out here in the world. I don't know specifically. There are a lot of women haters. That's not what this is about. This is about how do we, see, we know, right? At least I know. Listen, this is about drugs, they tell you. Oh, we want to stop the drug cartels from bringing fentanyl into the country or whatever. It's starting to sprinkle. I might have to start turning back. Listen, yeah, I'm gonna have to turn around right now. I've been walking. How long have I been going for? Almost 2 miles. Not bad. So by the time I get back to the car, it'll be damn near 4 miles. Not bad. Anyway, they tell you it's about the drugs, right? Well, how long have we been fighting this war on drugs? Who created most of these cartels? Our precious CIA and DEA. The drug prohibition created these cartels. The alcohol prohibition created the La Costa Nostra. The American Italian mafia came about because of the alcohol prohibition and heroin, the Cotton Club and all that. Do your history. This war on drugs that we have been fighting for many, many decades, the war on drugs that was declared by Tricky Dick Nixon, the same president that took us off the gold standard and allowed the Federal Reserve Bank to start printing money endlessly and creating more debt for the American people, putting more money in the circulation without the gold and silver and precious metals to back it up. The same government that did all that declared a war on drugs. Why? Well, because they needed a way to help back their fiat currency, to help keep it a little bit strong, right? So they tapped into the drug business. And they told y'all we were going to war against drugs, a war on drugs. When in reality, it was a campaign, right? It was a campaign to turn the people of the country into dope fiends because they knew, well, they'll spend a lot of money on these drugs and we can take a lot of the money and we could do our money laundering bullshit. The same war on drugs. What improvements have you seen? What reduction in drug crimes have you seen? Instead of reducing the drug crimes, what did they do? Well, they did. The war on drugs evolved. Because let's make no mistake, the war on drugs is not really a war on drugs. It's the war on people, right? It's the war on people because the drugs, well, they're just plant matter. The drugs are not going to pick up weapons and fight against our military. No, it's a war on people. This was a war against their own people, our government's people. And who did they attack first? Who was attacked first in this war on drugs? Can y'all tell me? Fiat is the magic word. But since fiat can only go so far, once the world begins to realize, well, your fiat currency is being stretched too far. And I don't see how you're maintaining this value of this dollar without something to back it up. You guys are just printing money out of nowhere. You guys are adding ones and zeros out of nowhere. So yes, fiat currency can only go so far. So now, police departments, look, the war on drugs did nothing to reduce or mitigate people's addiction and dependency on drugs. It escalated violence, right? Murder rates went up. Crime organizations came into being. The black market grew because of the war on drugs. Because if drugs were not prohibited in the first place, there would be no criminal organizations to that degree using that to their advantage, right? These drug criminal organizations would not need to worry about snitches. There would be less murders. This is just the reality. Would you have more people using drugs? Well, we don't know that. We don't know that. We never tried to educate. And when I say we, I'm talking about the United States government. We didn't educate people on drugs. We just told them drugs bad. Drugs bad. You do drugs, you bad guy. That's what they told us. Right? They told you, yes, DARE did, fellas. They told you, DARE was not meant to succeed, right? DARE was one of those programs where, they tried to convince you that peer pressure, you don't have to give in to peer pressure, right? But they are still funneling drugs into these neighborhoods, right? That's the bottom line to it. The government helped funnel drugs into this neighborhood. Into the country. Who was the first target in America's war on drugs? Can y'all tell me? Was it heroin? Was it cocaine? Who was the first target? Because it's a war on drugs, right? That's what we're told. This is a war on drugs. So it has to be a target. When you engage in war, you engage war against an enemy. So which enemy was the first target of the war on drugs? Someone says weed. Someone says opium. Someone says, someone else says psychedelics. Nope. Someone did say it earlier, though. They said it. They called out the right target. That target started with a G, ends with an O. The ghetto. Black folks. Black folks were the first target in the war on drugs. Not the drugs. The black ghettos. Started with the heroin, right? In the Cotton Club. The Italians supplied black folks with heroin at the behest of the United States government. The government supplied the Italians with heroin, and the Italians supplied the black folks in these clubs with the heroin. Because the Italians, they didn't get the heroin. How did they get the heroin? They had to get the heroin into the country, right? This is what we have to understand. The war on drugs is not about a war on drugs. It's about a war against the people. The war on cartels is not about a war against the cartels. Because if it was truly about a war against the cartels, well, they will be destroying and eliminating these Mexican cartel members and the Mexican cartel leaders. No, they work with the cartels. They work with the cartel leaders. These NGOs during the Biden administration that was trying to help people get into this country? You know they work with the cartels to do that? All the cartels that were trafficking. Sorry, I'm taking a little break. I got a ways to get back. The cartels that got in the business of getting people across the border, they worked with the NGOs. The NGOs, right, the non-governmental organizations, well, just because they're non-governmental organizations does not mean they're not being backed and financed by the government. And the only reason they can be backed and financed by the government is if the government extracts our wealth and passes it along to the NGOs, who then pass it along to the drug cartels. No. The cartels in Mexico, they're great business partners for the United States government. Because let me explain something. If you eliminate the drug cartels and eliminate the flow of drugs into the country, well, and somehow they were able to stop the proliferation of drugs in the country, well, certain aspects of government would not be needed, right? You would not see a need for certain aspects of certain agencies of the government. They have to justify, the government has to justify their existence by trying to convince us that we need them for something. We need the government to fight the war on drugs. The war on drugs will never end because what the government prohibits, the black market will provide. And the black market will never go away, y'all. Just like the dark web. The dark web is the black market of ideas. Right? So, at the end of the day, this war on the cartels, these 8 warships, the nuclear submarine, y'all think they're using that to stop and destroy some boats? Some tiny little boats that they say are carrying drugs to the United States. That's not what this is about, y'all. Oh, yes, please, y'all hit the like button. Yes, I know it's all you got to do is double tap, y'all. Double tap the screen, and y'all can leave a like. Yes, supply and demand. If there is supply and demand, well, the black market will provide if the government prohibits it. Just like with the alcohol prohibition. Well, the alcohol prohibition it didn't create the black market. It enriched the black market with bootleg liquor. Liquor didn't go away because the government prohibited it. No, the demand increased. The criminality increased. The violence against people increased because of the alcohol prohibition. I told y'all, the mafia started because of the alcohol prohibition. The alcohol prohibition, those years, that period of the alcohol prohibition was rife with government corruption. Senators, congresspeople, the president, department treasurers, right? They were all corrupt. They all benefited directly from bootlegging. They had bootlegging operations. The demand increased. The supply, well, the supply was still there. It was just more difficult for the supply to get distributed. So this increased the cost. It is what it is. At the end of the day, even if Maduro, because what they're trying to say is that Maduro himself is a drug cartel leader. What does that do? Especially since Donald Trump declared the drug cartels to be a terrorist group. MC Carr says, "My truth is beautiful." I appreciate that, Queen. Salute to you, beautiful Queen. Jeremy Melkin says, "This man is stupid." Okay, you think I'm stupid? Smarten me up. Smarten me up. Why am I dressed like an active shooter? I didn't know I was wearing a black trench coat. I didn't know I was wearing a long sleeve black shirt and black pants. I didn't know that. My bad. I guess I'm colorblind. See, the only problem with that statement, Anthony, is that I'm not a white man. Yeah. So that goes out the window. Anyway, drugs won't ever stop unless there's no supply or no demand. Yes, and there will always be a supply because most drugs are derived from natural plants, or even if they make them in a lab, they still need the raw material. The raw material is derived from natural plants. Yes, and the supply will always be there. Joseph Miranda says, well, he did remove weed as a Schedule 1 because they saw a way, because weed is basically a harmless, essentially, right? Well, they saw a way to capitalize on it by making it legal, regulating it, right? And profiting off of it through taxation. Yeah. So they were able to remove one form of plant matter. Yes. Because it doesn't damage the bottom line at the end of the day. No. Because there are still plenty of other drugs they can wage war against. So yeah. Right? And they can no longer pretend as though weed was such a harmful drug that it was destroying whole communities. No. They couldn't continue to push that lie. Someone says, good night from Asia. Salute to you. Vaikutax. Stalin in our heart says racist. Who's racist? I'm racist? Oh, it must be because I said I'm not a white man. Well, most active shooters, well, they're white. I mean, that's just the reality, right? Y'all like facts when it comes to denigrating black folks. But when you call out the other statistics, it's racist. Okay, Pimpin. Sure. So, Maduro, he knows the deal. He knows the reality. And he's calling Trump out. You guys can go watch his latest interview where he's talking about that. Facts don't care about your feelings. No, they don't. Even heavily manipulated and horribly contextualized facts. Blue says you're reasonable and have a good chat. I can tell you are not MAGA by hat. No, I'm not MAGA at all. Yes, it's not left versus right. It's rich versus poor. It's elite versus proletariat. That's what it's all about. It's about the dominant culture controlling the proletariat class for their benefit. So they create, well, I won't say they create these systems, right? Because I don't believe, even though they were hypocrites, right? The framers of the Constitution, Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence. where he talked about all men being created equal. He talked about consent of the governed, right? Well, the Declaration of Independence is a crucial part of the government structure, right? But he wrote that Declaration of Independence and there was still slavery going on, right? All men are created equal. Well, why is there still slavery under your watch? So they weren't perfect, right? They were hypocritical, but they didn't necessarily create this system for it to operate as it does. But because they created the system, it gave an opening to the elite class. It gave them a way to control the masses and convince the masses that they're really in control. And when did that start? It didn't start right away. They had to, do it piece by piece. It's really the banks. Because if you go throughout the history of the Constitution and how things were amended, how the Constitution was amended, how the judicial system set precedent and interpreted the Constitution. If you look at a lot, because I've been looking at a lot of these court cases, right, that set these precedents, that get these precedents set to install things, to get things in place, right, for the benefit of the elite and the corporations. If you go back throughout history and look at how a lot of these amendments came about, if you look at a lot of how some of these articles in the Constitution had clauses added to them and whatnot, well, you start to see a pattern. Someone called me a grifter. Sure. How about you prove I'm a grifter? Drop a $50 super chat so I can continue my grift. Stalling in our hearts. Yes, I'm grifting for freedom, y'all. I'm going to take y'all words and I'm going to make them do what it do. I'm grifting for freedom. So go ahead. Stalling in our hearts, drop me a super chat. If you drop me a super chat, Stalling in our hearts, I will do another live stream and I will shout you out and I will tell my entire support group that I am grifting. Go ahead. I'll tell them, I'll let people know. I'm grifting for freedom, y'all. I'm grifting to the freedom-minded individuals. I'm grifting to the critical thinkers. I am grifting to those individuals that want a different way, that want to know what their options really are. Because often we are presented with this false dichotomy. We are presented with these false choices. Oh, you got to choose left. You got to choose right. You got to choose that presidential candidate. You got to choose that presidential. No, you don't. You got to vote. If you don't vote, you don't get a voice. That's patently false because I don't vote, y'all. I don't vote. And look, I have a fucking voice. I got 480 people in here that are listening to my voice. You can choose Jesus, yes. And what do we know about Jesus? What if, you know what? It's Sunday. I'm not a Christian. I'm technically I'm a Muslim, right? Because I recited the Shahada when I was 13 years old. So technically I'm a Muslim. I'm not a practicing Muslim, though. But I'm not a Christian. And you know what? In Islam, they believe in Jesus. They know Jesus, they believe Jesus existed. But what was Jesus? Well, Jesus was considered a prophet in Islam, a messenger, just like Muhammad. Muhammad is the 25th and final messenger, right? I think Jesus was like the 24th. RJ Lamento says, drops a $5 super chat. Pardon me, y'all. This, I've been at this for over an hour, rucking with this 80 pounds. And, it is what it is. But anyway, he said, you are speaking truth to power. It is not red versus blue. It is us versus them. Facts. But people get See, they become afraid when you talk about us versus them because they don't like the danger of it. They don't like the danger. They don't like how uncomfortable freedom really is. Because see, people tell me, like my brother, speak for myself, right? Y'all go check that channel out. It's called Speak for Myself. Type that in. Y'all go check him out. My brother thinks that I'm not living in reality because I don't believe in government and I don't want government control. I'm not living reality because I don't want government control. I got 1% battery. I'm going to switch over to my other phone. I'll be back in a second, y'all. All right? Don't go nowhere.